Hey y'all, I'm Lauren and welcome to Cantina Cast. Today I'm giving a sneak peek of the new Star Wars Outlaws novel coming out on February 3rd called Low Red Moon. This novel is a prequel to the video game, but it is not necessary to be into the video game or to have ever played the game before in order to read this book. I approached this novel in a very similar way that I approached the Jedi Survivor novel, which was called Jedi Battle Scars, and it was featuring Cal Kestis as the main character. And even though I'd never played a game with Cal Kestis in it before, I still really enjoyed the book. And so I went into this book in kind of the same way. I've never played Star Wars Outlaws. I may play it at some point, but I don't have any plans to. I'm not really a huge video game person, although I like the idea of video games. I just don't really ever get around to playing them. So I went into this book just thinking that this would be a cool opportunity to get into some new Star Wars characters that I wasn't familiar with. I also do really like Mike Chen's writing. I really enjoyed Brotherhood, which he wrote a few years ago. And then I also have really liked the short stories that he has in the A Certain Point of View books. I figured that since I've had a good experience with Mike Chen before, then this is a good author to take a chance on some new characters with. If you are into the Star Wars Outlaws video game, then you probably have heard the names of the characters that we are following in this book, which is Jalen and Srilo Barsha. So in this book, we are introduced to the backstory of these characters that appear in the game, and then we also are introduced to the backstory of ND5. I will say I felt like the synopsis of this book kind of gave away a little bit too much information. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that with publishing recently, but sometimes I'll read the synopsis for something and be like, okay, that just gave away like half of the book. If you ever feel that way, be careful reading the full synopsis on this one because I feel like it almost gives away too much detail. But what I will tell you is that we do find out the origin story of these two characters. We find out what's going on with the Barsha family in more detail and kind of the weird environment, we'll just say, that Jalen and Srilo were brought up in, how this environment that their family forced them into, how it affects the way that they interact with each other. If you've played the game, you may kind of have a hunch of what I'm getting at here, but I don't want to give too much away for anybody who's like me who did not play the game but is thinking about giving this book a try anyway. So, who is this book for? I would say if you are a fan of the Star Wars Outlaws game, then this would be a good opportunity to get some more backstory on some of the characters and to just have more fun with the world that the game takes place in. I will say though, even if you're not into the games, if you are wanting to get to know some new Star Wars characters and get to know a different side of Star Wars, then I would say you may be interested in this book, especially if you like the crime syndicate side of Star Wars. If you enjoy seeing the way that that criminal underworld works and all of those crime syndicates coming together and them fighting for power and those types of stories, then there's a chance that I think you'll like this one. In that way, parts of this book did remind me of the Kira young adult novel Crimson Climb, written by E.K. Johnston, where we are seeing the crime syndicates fighting for power and we're seeing our main character trying to survive in that world, even though maybe that's not really what they wanted. It ended up being the situation that they were forced into. And so they're just trying to make the best of it. That side of things, I feel like that book, Crimson Climb, does have in common with Low Red Moon. I would not call this book a must read, just because if you're not really interested in Star Wars Outlaws and if you're not really interested in the crime underworld of Star Wars, it doesn't have any need to know information for reading other Star Wars books or getting into other Star Wars materials. But I do think if you do like any of those things that I mentioned, then it may be a good read for you. This novel does come out on February 3rd, so at that time I will have my full review with my full thoughts on the novel and also plot details and spoilers. So thanks so much for joining y'all. I hope that y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye guys.